Pokémon Champions has been advertised as both the new home of VGC and also a free-to-play game, lowering the barrier to entry for new players to get into competitive Pokémon. As a VGC player myself, I'm always happy to see more players join the scene, but how accessible actually is this game for completely new players as a strictly free-to-play experience? I've seen a number of people take on the challenge of getting to Master Ball tier, the highest standard rank in the game, without paying any money or transferring Pokémon in from Pokémon Home. But I'm setting out to do something a little different. You see, if you're preparing for a tournament, for example, you don't just want to use a team that's cobbled together and good enough to climb in ranked. You want to build the team you've planned out and tested, the one that you think will carry you to victory. So I've gone ahead and planned out a team, and in this video, I'm going to see how long it takes me to build that team in-game on a fresh Pokémon Champions account without paying money. There are a couple of extra things to note for this challenge. Firstly, I won't be using any Pokemon that are hidden behind timed events, such as battle passes or limited time recruitment pools. In true scientific fashion, I want this test to be applicable to any team consisting of any 6 Pokemon, and the most general case is that the Pokemon on the team aren't available in these events. Secondly, I'll actually be doing this challenge twice. Fresh accounts in Pokémon Champions get a bunch of starting resources to help the player get out of the gates. These come in the form of 10,000 free VP right off the bat, plus Battle Pass rewards, rewards for completing tutorials, and a set of one-time starter missions. In total, this gets the player 27,000 victory points, the main currency in the game, 234 quick coupons, which reduce the cooldown on recruiting new Pokemon and let you bypass the usual 22-hour wait, 7 teammate tickets, which allow you to recruit new Pokemon without having to pay VP, 4 training tickets, which let you fully train Pokemon without paying VP, and up to 10,000 additional VP for the furthest Battle Pass levels. In addition to this, you can get extras of all of these resources by completing a host of in-game achievements. All this to say that this challenge is much easier at the start of the game than it would be without access to all of these goodies. Because of this, one trial will be done to see how long it takes on a fresh account, and then a second to see how long it takes me once I've already burned through all those starting resources. The next thing to do is decide what teams I'll be trying to make. These teams are entirely arbitrary, so the easiest thing to do is for me to just grab a couple of teams that did well in a large online tournament that happened right before doing this challenge. The obvious first choice is the team that won the whole thing, which looks like this. Just kidding, that's not actually possible because the team has an Eternal Floette on it, and that's not obtainable natively in Champions, which is certainly an interesting choice for such a powerful Pokemon. Okay, the winning team's off the table, so I settle on another team that looks pretty fun, which is a semi-Trick Room team made up of Torkoal, Mega Charizard Y, Farigiraf, Sneasler, Primarina, and Mega Kangaskhan. With the first team chosen, it's time to start the first trial. After a slight delay to set up a second Nintendo account, I boot up Champions, skip through the tutorials, and 8.5 minutes in, I have my first spin of the wheel at Roster Ranch, and yeah, I immediately get one of the Pokemon I need for my team. In fact, on only my third spin, I get my second member. I was initially kind of worried about how long this challenge was going to take, but with Sneasler and Torkoal already recruited, I'm starting to think that maybe this won't actually be so bad. This is helped by Primarina appearing just 6 ranch trips later, for a total of 3 team members after just 9 trips. However, even Torkoal couldn't have prepared me for the drought that was to come. I spend the rest of the first day of the challenge grinding ranked matches to earn VP and complete missions, recruiting new Pokemon whenever I can. 13 trips to the ranch later though, and I still have no extra team members. I'm reaching the end of my early game resources at this point, and I'm worried that progress is going to slow way down. Genius that I am though, I find a way to speed things up again. Champions has items called Type Affinity tickets, which increase the odds of Pokemon of a certain type appearing in the ranch. The easiest way to get these tickets is to complete achievements by using moves of that type a certain number of times. I noticed that 2 of the Pokemon I still need to get, Farigiraf and Kangaskhan, are both normal types. As it happens, the most popular move in VGC, Protect, is a normal type move. A few other moves on my current ranked team, such as Substitute, Swords Dance, and Weather Ball when no weather is active, also happen to be normal type moves. When I'm given a bot match during my ranked grind, I have a Brainwave. Wait, chat, I have an optimal play here. Hear me out. There's an optimal play in this situation, which is I go Protect, and I go Protect, and I farm normal type moves, so that I get the normal type Affinity ticket, and I can get Kangaskhan. So, naturally, I proceed to spend a full 20 minutes protecting, substituting, and weatherless balling my own King Gambit, while the bot's Whimsicott can only sit and watch. This very engaging 20 minutes of content was indeed enough to earn me 2 normal type Affinity tickets, which I immediately use on my next 2 spins in the ranch. The first of these, and my 23rd spin overall, nets me a Farigiraf, but there's no sign of Kangaskhan or Charizard in the next one. After 24 total recruitments, and almost 3 hours of playtime, I wrap up day 1 of the challenge with 4 of my 6 team members acquired. The only team members I'm missing now are my 2 Mega Pokemon, which isn't exactly helping with the rank grind. Nonetheless, I get a few games in at the start of day 2 before my cooldown ends on my free recruitment for the day. I complete some missions, claim some Battle Pass rewards, and rack up some VP, which allows me to go for 8 consecutive ranch trips as soon as my cooldown is over. On the 4th of these, and my 28th spin total, I get myself a Kangaskhan, putting me just 1 Pokemon away from completing my team. The remainder of day 2 is uneventful, and 1 hour and 4 trips to the ranch later, I call it a day with no Charizard in sight. This could be by far the hardest part of the journey, since with only 1 Pokemon left to get, the odds of me getting what I need from the ranch are much lower than they were when I had 6 Pokemon I was searching for. Just kidding, I boot up on day 3, and it takes a total of 20 minutes to find a Charizard on just my 2nd spin of the day. Oh my god, finally! Jesus Christ! Well, that was an underwhelming end to the, I'm 25 minutes in to this stream, and we hit the Zard. It's a good thing too, because I'd already completed all of the starter missions and Battle Pass missions, so it was going to be a lot longer between trips to the ranch going forward. All in all, my quest to build this first team has taken me 37 trips to the ranch in a little over 5 hours across 3 days. Since I made a big spreadsheet with all of the info from my recruitments, here are some extra fun facts. The form of Pokemon I saw the most was Toxicroak, who I saw 7 times, although that was mostly due to a weird patch where I got Toxicroak in 4 consecutive ranch visits. I specified that that was my most seen form of Pokemon because the species I saw most was actually Meowstic, with 5 male and 4 female for a total of 9, but the 2 Meowstic genders are competitively different. Across my 37 visits to the ranch, there were 29 forms of Pokemon that I didn't see a single time, and 69, nice, that I saw only once. Now, I mentioned at the start of the video that I was going to do this challenge a second time, without the benefit of all the starting missions and resources. In all honesty though, the first part of this experiment was pretty tedious, and I was getting a little frustrated towards the end. Should I even bother with the second part of this challenge? Would it be worth bashing my head into a wall for even longer than the first part took? I do a bit of quick maths in my head. Every 22 hours, you get 1 free spin at the ranch. You also get 24 quick coupons from daily missions, effectively giving you another free spin, plus a couple coupons left over. If you're both very fast and very good at battling, you can, if I'm being generous, probably earn enough VP in 2 hours of playing ranked battles for another 2 spins. This amounts to 4 spins every day if you spend 2 hours playing. If the second attempt at this challenge takes me the same number of spins as the first, that would come out to 9 days of playing for 2 hours every day, for a total of just over 18 hours of game time, to build 1 team. I currently try to stream every weekday. You should go follow me on Twitch, by the way. The link to my channel is in the description of this video. Oh, also, while you're down there, you might as well subscribe to me here on YouTube, since you're already right by the button anyway. But as I was saying, I currently stream on most days, so I can actually spend multiple hours a day playing this game. But that's not the case for most people who have work and families and friends and hobbies and stuff. Not that I don't have those things. I do have, friends and hobbies, and the work I do is seasonal. I do actually have a job, it's just not in season right. I'm not weird, okay? Despite the very normal amount of time I currently have to spend on this game, doing another 18 hours of this challenge doesn't sound like a thing I'd enjoy, even for content, and I don't want this video to take weeks to make. I decided to check if I should actually expect it to take that long, or if I just got unlucky with how many spins the first attempt took me. I did a degree in maths, and I might as well use it somehow. The first step is working out the odds of finding a Pokemon you need in a single visit to the ranch. So strap in, because this might get a little bit technical, but bear with me. In probability, a sample space is, in simple terms, the set of all possible outcomes of an event. In this case, it's all the possible combinations of 10 Pokemon you could find at the ranch. Probabilities work on a scale from 0, meaning an event is impossible, to 1, meaning that an event is guaranteed to happen. The probabilities of all possible outcomes in a sample space must add up to 1, which basically means that some kind of outcome is guaranteed to happen, and seems pretty obvious when it's said out loud. For our team building experiment, we can break up our sample space into the outcomes where you do get a Pokemon for your team, and the outcomes where you don't. Since these have to add up to 1, we can say that the probability of getting a Pokemon you need is equal to 1 minus the probability of not getting a Pokemon you need. These probabilities are different depending on how many Pokemon you still need to find for your team. It makes intuitive sense that the more Pokemon you're looking for, the higher the odds are that you find one. Pokémon Champions has 186 species of Pokemon. When you factor in alternate forms and regional variants, and then take out Eternal Floette because you can't actually find that in the game, there are 185 species and 212 competitively unique forms of Pokemon available in the ranch. I did a bit of digging around, but I couldn't actually find any information on what your odds of finding particular Pokemon looked like when factoring in different forms, so we're gonna have to make some approximations here. Let's take the most conservative approximation, which is to model this as if there are 185 unique Pokemon in the ranch, each of which have the same odds of being found. This will effectively give us an upper bound on the odds of finding a Pokemon we need each time we visit. So let's say you still need all 6 Pokemon for your team. How do we find the odds of finding one on any given trip to the ranch? First, we find the odds of not finding any. For the first Pokemon in the ranch's set of 10, there are 185 options, of which 179 aren't the ones we want. So the probability of that Pokemon not being one we want is 179 over 185. If the first Pokemon's no good, what about the second one? Since the ranch won't give you repeat Pokemon, there are now 184 options, and we don't want 178 of them, meaning a probability of 178 over 184 of not getting a team member in the second slot. We continue this pattern for all 10 Pokemon, and then we multiply these probabilities together to find the probability of us not getting a Pokemon we want in this entire group of 10. In this particular case, this comes out to roughly 0.71. Subtracting this from 1, we get a probability of around 0.29 that we do get a Pokemon that we want. Effectively, each trip to the ranch is what's known as a bwenty trial, a single independent and random trial with 2 possible outcomes, success or failure. An example of a bwenty trial could be trying to flip heads on a coin or trying to roll a 6 on a die. The probability of success is labelled P, which would be a half for the coin or 1 in 6 for the die, for example. In our case, it's the 0.29 that we calculated earlier. The number, which we will call capital X, of bwenty trials required to get the first success is modelled by something called a geometric distribution, which tells us the probability of finding success after a given number of trials. The part of the geometric distribution that's most relevant to us is the expected value of X, which we will label E of X. Since X is the number of trials needed to get a success, the expected value of X will give us the average amount of trips to the ranch needed to get a Pokemon for our team. Calculating the expected value of a geometric distribution is easy. It's just 1 divided by the probability of success in an individual trial. This is somewhat intuitive. You'd expect it to take an average of 6 attempts to roll a 6 on a die. So, back to our ranch example, let's call the number of trials to get our first Pokemon x1. Our expected value of x1 is 1 divided by 0.29, or roughly 3.49. This is the average number of trips to the ranch we would need to find our first Pokemon. There are now only 5 Pokemon we're looking for, so we have to calculate new odds for finding a teammate in each trip to the ranch. This time there are still 185 options for the first Pokemon in our set of 10, but now there are 180 we don't want instead of 179. Like before, there are now 184 options for the second slot and 179 that we don't want, and so on. By once again multiplying these probabilities together, we find that the probability of not finding one of the 5 Pokemon we want is around 0.76. So the probability that we do get one is roughly 0.24. This probability is slightly lower than the first, and gives us an expected value of 4.08 trips to find our second Pokemon. We now have separate expected values for the number of trips it will take to get our first and our second Pokemon. Repeating this process, we find that our expected number of trips to find our third Pokemon is 4.98, for our fourth it's 6.48, for our fifth it's 9.48, and for our sixth it's 18.5. Let's call the total number of trips needed to get our entire team xt. Xt is equal to the sum of x1 through x6, which are the amount of trials it takes for us to get each of the individual Pokemon. In this instance, the expected value of xt is also equal to the sum of the expected values of x1 through x6. So, on average, we would expect building our whole team of 6 to take 47.01 trips to the ranch, but let's just round that to 47. That is quite a lot higher than the 37 it took when I did this experiment. And that was with the most conservative case too. Most likely the expected value is actually higher than this. Despite having all of the easy resources at the start of the game, and despite apparently getting very lucky, my 5-hour, 3-day experiment felt like a bit of a drag. But that is nothing compared with what the average time would be to build a team from scratch without all the new account bonuses. With our estimates of 47 recruitment trips to get the team and 4 trips per 2-hour day of playing, we would expect it to take a little over 11 days, or 22 hours. I don't know about you guys, but that doesn't seem like a hugely accessible free-to-play game, and it's certainly not something that I personally want to test. Having made the decision to simply not do the second test, this marks the end of my little Champions experiment. But all good experiments need a conclusion, so what have we learned from this? Firstly, building a team on a free-to-play account will likely take you absolutely ages, and secondly, I'm really f***ing lucky. And that is all for this video. If you enjoyed, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. If you want to hang out and see me do challenges and play VGC live, go follow me on Twitch as well. The link to that is in the description. If you have any suggestions for Pokemon Champions content, then let me know in the comments. I'm always keen to try more things. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.